When I met Lena, I wasn't anyone special. Just a third-string wide receiver at a Division II school, trying to keep up with scholarship athletes and hoping for a shot at something bigger. She was a junior studying sports media, smart, focused, always in control of the room without needing to raise her voice. The first time we spoke, she corrected my grammar during a campus panel Q&A. The second time, she called me out for skipping a player interview she'd arranged. I respected her before I even liked her. It started slow. Study groups turned into coffee, coffee turned into late nights at my off-campus apartment watching game film while she proofread feature pieces. She wasn't impressed by stats or post-game interviews. She liked what came after, the planning, the strategy, the way I studied tape like I was prepping for war. We got married 4 years later, right after I was drafted. 5th round pick. Not flashy. Not front page. But enough to get in the door. Enough to prove I belonged. We moved to Atlanta and started carving out something real. I bounced around early, practice squad to special teams, back to practice squad. Lena picked up freelance work doing digital campaigns for small sports outlets and podcast branding. She could have taken a full-time job at any major network, but she said she wanted to build her own lane. When I finally broke out in year 3, started every game, finished with career highs, got mentioned in 2 All-Pro talks, she never flinched. She kept the same calm she had when I was a backup. Told me to stay hungry. Told me the game could love you one season and forget your name the next. We had our first kid that year, Ava. 2 years later came Miles. Game days were family events. Lena had a system. The kids wore coordinated jerseys, she packed noise-canceling headphones, and we'd meet at the same tunnel exit after every home game. No matter the score, no matter the spotlight, they were my reset button. Off the field, we had everything people aim for, a home just outside the city, a wide kitchen built for hosting, framed photos that made it into magazines, and the kind of lifestyle that got us invited to events where athletes and owners stood shoulder to shoulder. And yet, Lena never changed. She never chased attention. She stayed grounded, observant. She kept her circle small. Most people loved her immediately, but very few got close. I used to joke she could be an FBI agent if she wasn't so obsessed with sports analytics. We took vacations between OTAs and training camp. She handled the kids like a machine, never missed a school forum or birthday party, knew the names of every assistant coach's spouse. The organization called us the Blueprint. Stable. Focused. A franchise family. And I believed that too. Every time I walked into our home, saw Ava's backpack on the floor or Lena curled up with Miles under a throw blanket, I felt like I'd won the game that actually mattered. Not the one under stadium lights. But the one that waited after. Our home ran like a well-coached team. Lena was the coordinator, no question. She never raised her voice, but everything clicked under her direction. She knew where the kids' jackets were without looking, remembered school picture days even when I forgot what month it was, and always kept one step ahead of any crisis, from scheduling to snacks to emotional meltdowns. She didn't just parent, she designed a system that worked. Sunday mornings were sacred. No phone calls, no errands. I made pancakes, the kids picked the playlist, and Lena stayed in her robe longer than she ever did during the week. It was the one part of our schedule we never touched. Even in the thick of the season, she'd wait until I walked through the door late Saturday night or early Sunday morning so we could all sit down together. We lived in Buckhead, a gated home with clean white walls, big windows, and a backyard the kids had basically turned into a jungle gym. Lena liked things tidy, but never sterile. Our space always felt lived in. Comfortable. A place you wanted to come back to. Ava was already showing signs she'd inherited Lena's clarity, methodical with her routines, sharp with her questions. She wanted to be a veterinarian one week, a food critic the next. Miles was chaos and charm. Everything was loud with him. His voice, his questions, his love. He jumped into hugs like they were touchdowns. When I wasn't traveling, I did school drop-offs. It became our thing, Ava in the backseat quizzing me on spelling words, Miles asking if space was bigger than the ocean. Lena would meet us at the door when we got home and ask them for their 3 best things from the day. No matter what was going on, she stayed present. We had our village, too. A couple other players' families we rotated dinners with. The Team Wives group. Lena wasn't close with everyone, but the ones she let in, she kept close. She had 2 best friends, one from college, one from a marketing campaign she worked on years ago, and they knew more about our family than anyone outside the house. Every few months, we'd host. Lena made it look effortless. Charcuterie boards, themed cocktails, quiet music in the background. I always joked that she had a Pinterest board for every occasion. And she did, I saw the folders on her laptop. She planned ahead for everything, right down to which wine paired with what appetizer. But what made it work wasn't just the planning. It was her. The way she made people feel at ease without trying. Sometimes I'd just stand back and watch her move, between guests, between rooms, switching effortlessly from hostess to mom to wife. And I'd think, this is the win that matters. The lights, the cameras, the jersey, all of that could disappear tomorrow. But what we'd built here. This felt permanent. There were seasons where I felt like I lived 3 lives at once, the one on the field, the one at home, and the one in between where everything blurred. Lena held all 3 together without blinking. During the season, I barely came up for air. Practice. Rehab. Meetings. Travel. Recover. Repeat. The days were long, the expectations constant. I was always trying to stay half a step ahead of the guy who wanted my spot. That's how the league works, no matter how secure you feel, someone younger and hungrier is always watching film, waiting for a window. Lena never made me feel guilty for that. If anything, she protected the space I needed. She made sure the kids never saw me when I was drained. She'd time things, meals, FaceTimes, bedtimes, around my schedule, without ever acting like it was a sacrifice. She kept the house full, stable, alive. Ava would make me drawings and tape them to my locker at home. Miles once asked if the coach was Daddy's boss. Lena laughed and said, he's more like the GPS, Daddy's the engine. She had metaphors like that for everything. Smart ones, grounded in how our kids thought. She made them feel like they were part of what I was doing, not just waiting for me to come home from it. We had our own rituals too. She'd text me a photo before every game, something simple. Her hand on the kids' heads before they left for school, a sticky note she'd packed in my bag, a picture of the dinner I'd missed that night. Always a little message with it. Play smart. We're with you. After wins, she'd send one-word replies, solid. After losses, we've got you. She didn't ride the highs too high or the lows too low. She knew the business. Knew how fragile careers could be. That's why she made sure home never felt like a performance. I didn't have to be anything other than myself. She kept her own ambitions too. She started a boutique marketing firm 2 years ago, mostly sports-adjacent clients, some apparel, some events. She never made a big deal about it, but it grew fast. I'd catch her in the office after bedtime, sketching out concepts, designing pitch decks, cross-checking influencer engagement numbers. She never asked me to promote her stuff either. Said she wanted the success to stand on its own. I respected that. She worked like she was proving something, not to me, but to herself. And we made time for each other. It would have been easy not to. Between my schedule and hers, we could have just passed like business partners trading off house duties and calendar management. But Lena would shut her laptop at 9:30 sharp most nights, pour us both a glass of wine, and curl up next to me on the couch. We talked. Laughed. Debated stupid hypotheticals. We watched trash reality shows and paused them every 5 minutes to comment like we were on the panel. We had fun. Even after 10 years. Even after 2 kids. It didn't feel like something we were keeping alive. It felt alive on its own. Like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. By the time I hit my 9th year in the league, I'd seen more teammates come and go than I could count. Guys I'd sweated with in summer heat, celebrated with after road wins, watched get traded, cut, injured, forgotten. It's the nature of the business. Everyone's a name on a depth chart until they're not. But home didn't change. That's what made Lena different. She never got caught up in the churn. She didn't ask who was starting over who, or where the rumors were pointing for next season. She didn't even flinch when I pulled a hamstring and had to sit out 4 weeks. Just asked what I needed, adjusted our calendar, and made sure the kids didn't worry. She was always steady like that. I don't think I appreciated it enough. Our lives had rhythm. Ava's school drop-offs, Miles' weekend swim class, my rehab schedule, Lena's meetings. It was full, but not frantic. She had a gift for timing. She knew how long I needed after practice before I could be present. She knew which nights I needed quiet and which ones I needed distraction. We made space for everything. Even when the days were packed, we protected our time. Tuesday nights, no matter what, that was ours. We'd put the kids down early, order from our favorite Thai spot, and sit out back with a glass of wine and a speaker playing soft jazz or 2000s R&B. We didn't need a reason. We just needed the time. She remembered the little things. She'd pick up my favorite protein bars without asking. She'd restock the pain patches I used after games. She once spent 3 hours calling stores to find the exact Lego set Miles saw in a commercial. That's the kind of woman she was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just always there, always watching, always handling things before anyone had to ask. I never questioned her love. Not for a second. I could feel it in how she held my hand in the car, or how she reached across the table to fix the collar of my shirt before an event. She believed in showing up, not through grand gestures, but through consistency. She had the kids' lives documented in a color-coded calendar pinned in the hallway. Appointments, school events, soccer practices, dentist visits. Ava had a book report coming up. Miles was practicing how to tie his shoes without Velcro. Lena tracked it all like a scout with game film. And she gave me credit, too. She'd tell friends how present I was. How I still got down on the floor to build forts. How I helped with homework, even when I was exhausted. She made me feel like I mattered beyond what I did for a living. That I was necessary. There were moments I'd look at her across the kitchen, hair tied up, hands deep in some project or snack bag prep, and think, this is it. This is what everyone hopes for. Not the flash. Not the money. Not the press. But peace. A home that didn't feel like something you had to protect. A love that never needed to prove itself. A life that made sense. Exactly what everyone else seemed to be chasing. It was nothing, at first. A missed call. That's all. I was in the training facility, finishing rehab for a calf strain. When I checked my phone, I saw a single call from Lena around noon, no voicemail. I called her back during my break, straight to voicemail. Tried again an hour later. Same thing. By the time I got home that evening, she was in the kitchen, hair still slightly damp from a shower, phone on the counter. She was chopping vegetables like any other night. Miles sat at the island with crayons, Ava on the couch reading out loud to herself. Hey, I said, dropping my bag. You called earlier? She paused just long enough to register. Oh, she said, yeah. It was nothing. I figured it out. I didn't push. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I could help set the table. Still, Something about the pause stayed with me. I'd never had to ask her twice before. She always told me exactly why she called, even if it was just to ask what kind of juice the kids wanted. Later that night, I saw her phone screen light up while she was brushing her teeth. It was face down on the nightstand, so I couldn't see the name. When she walked out of the bathroom, she picked it up, glanced at it, and flipped it again, screen down. That was new. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who reads into every glance or message. We trusted each other. That was never a question. But small things started adding up. She was going out more. Not often, maybe once or twice a week, but enough that I noticed. She said it was client meetings. Her agency was growing, she had new sponsors to manage, and I believed her. Still do, in part. But she used to tell me who she was meeting. Now it was just, I've got a dinner Tuesday, or I'll be home late, work thing. Another change, the calendar on the wall. The one she'd curated for years. It started having gaps. Whole days left blank where before she'd have everything labeled down to Miles' swim lessons. When I asked about it, she waved it off. I'm switching to digital, she said. Easier to manage on the go. Made sense. But Lena wasn't impulsive. She didn't just change systems on a whim. She had routines for a reason. It wasn't until Ava asked me to sign her field trip form that I realized Lena hadn't mentioned it at all. She always flagged that kind of stuff. Color-coded folders, pre-labeled lunch bags, extra sunscreen in a side pocket. That morning, she hadn't even packed Ava's bag. I told myself it was stress. Her work was demanding. The kids were getting older. Things slipped through the cracks. But I started to watch her more closely. Not suspiciously. Just, attentively. Her smile was still there. Her touch was still warm. But sometimes her focus wasn't. I'd talk, and she'd blink like she hadn't caught the last part. Her replies were softer, sometimes delayed. Like her mind was buffering. She wasn't pulling away. But she was drifting. And I couldn't tell if I was imagining it. Or finally starting to see it. I started waking up before her. Not on purpose, not exactly. It was more like my body had started running defense against something my mind hadn't caught up to. I'd lie there in the half-dark, listening to the soft click of her phone screen as she checked messages, thumb brushing quietly across the glass while I kept my eyes closed. She wasn't hiding it, but she wasn't sharing it either. A few times, she slipped out of bed early and I'd hear her voice low from the hallway, maybe the laundry room. Once I got up and found her standing by the sink, phone still pressed to her ear, nodding to herself even though no one could see her. I asked who it was. Client stuff, she said, too fast. Time zones are a nightmare lately. It made sense. Her work had picked up. She'd signed 2 new partnerships, had even been invited to speak at a branding summit in Austin. I was proud of her. Truly. But pride doesn't cancel out intuition. That weekend, we were invited to a team dinner, players, families, staff. Usually, Lena was the one reminding me to RSVP, making sure we brought a bottle of wine or at least showed up on time. This time, I mentioned it 3 times before she added it to her calendar. Even then, she hesitated. I might have a conflict, she said. With? She paused. One of the sponsors might be flying in. On a Saturday night? She gave a light shrug, like she knew it didn't quite land but didn't want to lie. Tentative. She came with me anyway. She looked perfect, black dress, hair down, earrings I hadn't seen in a while. She smiled at all the right people, asked the head coach about his daughter's college applications, laughed at my position coach's terrible stories. But something was off. She wasn't beside me, not really. She floated through the evening like someone watching themselves on tape. At one point, I saw her step out onto the balcony alone. I gave it a few minutes before following. She was scrolling her phone, thumb flying like she was trying to finish a conversation before I got close. When she looked up, her smile flickered, just for a second. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah. Just checking in with Ava's sitter. She had a nosebleed earlier." "She's fine." "Yeah. All good." I nodded, but something about the timing didn't sit right. Ava hadn't mentioned it when I kissed her goodnight. And Lena usually didn't wait hours to tell me if something had happened with the kids. The next day, I checked the family tablet we kept in the kitchen, the one with synced messages for babysitters, emergency contacts, the usual. There was no message about a nosebleed. No text. No call log. Maybe she'd used her personal phone. Maybe it slipped through. But Lena didn't forget to document things. She lived by lists and receipts. I found myself doing things I never did before. Not spying, just noticing. Double-checking. Listening between words. And the more I listened, the more quiet gaps I found. I couldn't point to one big thing. No scandal. No broken trust. No red flag waving in my face. But it was all around me. In the pauses. The missed beats. The edits she made to her own story mid-sentence. I wanted to believe it was nothing. But when the ground shifts beneath you, even subtly, you feel it in your knees before your eyes catch up. There's a look people give you when they're halfway out the door but haven't told you yet. It's not cold. It's not angry. It's just distant. As if they're already living in a space you're not part of, and they haven't figured out how to bring you the news. That's the look I started seeing in Lena. Not always. Not when the kids were around, or when we had people over. But when it was just us, the quiet in-between moments, her attention would drift. She'd zone out mid-conversation. Smile like she heard me, but not fully. Like she was running two programs and I was on the background channel. I started keeping track. Not in a notebook or anything. Just mental markers. Like the night I came home from film study and she wasn't there. No text. No note. Her car gone, her phone going straight to voicemail. When she came in around midnight, she said she'd lost track of time catching up with an old colleague, one she hadn't mentioned in years. I nodded. Let it go. But the next day, her calendar showed team strategy call for the exact window she'd been out. Another night, she was folding laundry when her phone rang. She looked at the screen and didn't answer. Just turned the ringer off and kept folding like it hadn't happened. When I asked who it was, she said, "Wrong number," and changed the subject. These weren't smoking guns. But they weren't nothing. I started feeling like a guest in my own marriage. Like I was walking into a room that had already decided what I didn't know. She didn't stop being kind. She didn't pull away physically. She still kissed me goodnight, still texted me small reminders during the day. But something had shifted. And that kind of shift doesn't happen on accident. I tried to get ahead of it. One night after we put the kids down, I sat beside her on the couch and asked, "Are we good?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "You've been somewhere else lately." She stared at me for a second longer than she should have. Then she leaned in, put her hand on my leg, and said, "I've just got a lot going on. Work's been insane. You know that." I nodded, because I did know that. But the problem wasn't the answer, it was how well she'd prepared it. It landed too smoothly. No hesitation, no searching. Just ready. Like she knew the question was coming. That was when it really hit me, she wasn't stumbling through stress or distraction. She was managing it. Managing me. Like I was a part of her life she needed to keep level while the rest of it shifted somewhere else. And I started wondering, what else was she managing? That week, I came back from practice and found Miles watching TV alone. I asked where his mom was, and he said, "She went out with her friend. She said not to tell you." He said it casually. Like he'd been coached. When she came home, I didn't mention it. I didn't ask who the friend was. Or where they went. Or why she felt the need to keep it from me. Because I already knew something was coming. And whatever it wasn't going to be small. Training camp was in Costa Rica that year, a new off-season initiative meant to build chemistry and mental toughness in unfamiliar terrain. Coaches pitched it as a reset. Players joked about jet lag and tropical weather making them soft. I didn't mind. New scenery. Clear air. Just football. Lena didn't come with me. That wasn't unusual. She rarely traveled during camp, said it was easier for the kids to stay in their routines, and she had work anyway. We kissed goodbye like always. She stood at the curb with Ava on one hip and Miles gripping her hand, waving until my SUV pulled out of sight. I remember thinking how lucky I was, not for the family, not for the success, but for how normal it all still felt. We'd built something stable in a world built on uncertainty. The third night into camp, I took a break from drills and hiked to a local beach just past the training site. The guys had found a trail that led to a quieter stretch, no tourists, no cameras. I wanted space. I needed to think. That's when I saw her. At first, it didn't register. Just a silhouette under the shade of a beachfront bungalow, the kind of place you rent when you're trying not to be seen. The figure moved, laughing, barefoot in the sand, and something in the way she reached up to fix her hair made my stomach twist. It was Lena. My wife. Wearing the sundress she'd packed for our last anniversary trip. And not alone. The man she was with stepped out of the bungalow behind her, taller than me, broad-shouldered, familiar in a way that made my jaw lock. It was my coach. My head coach. He wrapped an arm around her waist like it belonged there. She leaned in, kissed his jaw, laughed like she'd done it 1,000 times. They looked like a couple on vacation, not sneaking, not nervous. Comfortable. Casual. Complete. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just watched from behind the low brush, heart thudding like it was trying to break free from my ribs. She hadn't flown in with the team. Which meant she planned this. Coordinated it. While telling me she had meetings, while hugging our kids goodbye, while promising to call me after bedtime routines. I stood there for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Long enough to watch her hold his hand. Long enough to watch him pull her close, like no one was watching. When I finally walked away, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't scream. I just walked back toward camp, past palm trees and the echo of waves, through the heat and the weight of something collapsing quietly inside me. I didn't tell anyone that night. Didn't text her. Didn't confront him. Not yet. Because if you're going to lose everything, your wife, your coach, your trust in the people closest to you, you better make sure they don't get to walk away clean. And I had no intention of letting either of them do that. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark with headphones in, the noise of the jungle outside and the crashing of the waves just beyond. I stared at the ceiling of my room in the teen compound and played out every possible version of how I'd confront them. None of them were calm. By morning, I had a plan. I didn't storm the bungalow. I didn't start swinging. That would have made it too easy for them. I wanted consequences, not chaos. First, I met with the team's general manager. It was supposed to be a rest day, but I asked for a private meeting and told him everything, no theatrics, just the truth. What I saw. Who I saw. When. I showed him the flight logs Lena didn't know I had access to through our travel booking account. I showed him the calendar screenshots, the timestamps, the proof. He didn't say much. Just closed the laptop slowly and said, "Are you sure you want to move forward with this?" Absolutely. Next was legal. I called my attorney from the balcony and laid it out in cold, simple sentences. He was silent for a moment, then asked, "Do you want this quiet, or do you want them ruined?" "I want the house. I want full custody. And I want his career torched." He said, "Copy that." I didn't see Lena again before the end of camp. I didn't respond to her messages once she noticed I was gone from her radar, not when she texted a generic, "Miss you, hope you're good," or when she called and left a voicemail that opened with, "I hope you're okay, I'm just checking in." She had no idea I'd already filed for divorce. She had no idea the kids were now staying with my sister. And she definitely didn't know that when she flew home, everything she left behind would be gone. I emptied the house. Not out of spite, out of necessity. She came back to an entryway cleared of her shoes, a closet stripped to the hangers, an email from my lawyer detailing the petition for sole custody, along with evidence of what the court would soon be reviewing. But that was just the start. The coach, the man who had patted my shoulder after games, who talked about discipline and doing the right thing in every post-game speech, didn't make it to the end of the week. The GM called him into a meeting, and when he walked out, he was done. Contract terminated. Code of conduct breach. Relationship with a player's spouse. Unauthorized absences during team programming. It wasn't even close. But that wasn't the end of him either. Our legal team, sharp, ruthless, went digging. Turns out he hadn't just broken team protocol. He'd misreported personal income for years. Unclaimed side revenue from youth camps, false deductions, cash honorariums. It was all there. The IRS got the file by Monday. By Friday, he was under investigation for tax fraud. Years of it. He lost everything. His job, his endorsements, and the public narrative he built about being a leader of men. And Lena? She didn't fight. She didn't even try. She knew what I'd seen. And she knew I wasn't going to give her the grace of silence. Not after what she took from me. The headlines came quickly. Not from me, I never went public. But someone leaked the firing. Then someone else leaked the tax investigation. Within days, the press had pieced it together. Veteran head coach dismissed amid allegations. Internal source cites player's spouse as central to team scandal. They didn't name me. Or her. But people inside the league knew. The locker room knew. The wives and girlfriends. They definitely knew. I stopped answering texts. Some of the guys reached out, support, shock, the usual, let me know if you need anything. I appreciated it, but I wasn't ready. I didn't want pity. I didn't want a circle of men telling me how screwed up it was, how they'd never let that happen. What did it matter? It already had. Lena tried to call. Every day. Then it turned into voice notes. Emails. A handwritten letter delivered through her lawyer, long, emotionally detailed, full of explanations that didn't change anything. She never denied it. She just softened the language. Said it happened slowly, that she got caught in something complicated. Said she didn't know how to come back from it. I didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to say. She'd lived a second life. In secret. With someone who had power over both of us, who coached me, critiqued me, praised me in meetings while sleeping with the woman I loved at night. There's no coming back from that. I stayed in a rental property the team helped arrange. Small. Clean. Quiet. Just me and the kids on the weekends now. Ava curled against me on the couch, Miles asking if we'd get a dog now that it was just us. I told him maybe. Not now. Lena saw them once, supervised, part of the preliminary custody agreement. She didn't cry in front of them. She didn't try to explain. She just held their hands too tightly and stared at me when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't stare back. I was already somewhere else. Not in a dramatic way. Not in rage. Just, gone. The coach's house went up for sale a week after the news broke. No takers. His social media disappeared. So did his speaking engagements. So did his consulting gigs. Tax attorneys lined up to carve up what was left of his credibility. I didn't need to press charges. The government would handle that part for me. I focused on the routine. Workouts. Nutrition. Physical therapy. A new playbook. The off-season program, revised. A meeting with the new interim coach, awkward but brief. He said, "You handled it like a pro." I nodded. Didn't tell him I wasn't handling anything. I was surviving. The house Lena once filled was now quiet. But for the first time in months, the silence wasn't suspicious. It was peaceful. I found myself making breakfast for the kids without triple-checking the time. I slept through the night. I didn't flinch when my phone buzzed. And I stopped wondering what story was being told in the background of my life. There were no more stories. Just the truth. And the slow, steady work of rebuilding from it. It's been 6 months. The headlines have faded. The coach pled guilty to tax fraud and took a deal, house arrest, fines, professional ruin. He won't coach again. He won't even show his face in public for a long time, if ever. Lena's been quiet. After the divorce was finalized, the supervised visits turned into short, monitored weekends. No overnights. No spontaneous pickups. She tried to push for mediation at first, but my legal team had already locked the doors before she knocked. The evidence was too clean. The betrayal too public. She knew better than to fight it. The kids adjusted faster than I expected. Ava stopped asking where Mom was after the 2nd month. Miles only brings her up when we pass the old neighborhood. I never speak badly about her to them. They'll ask questions someday, and I'll answer honestly when they do. But for now, I let them love her in whatever shape they still can. They have stability here. They have me. I hired a live-in assistant, not a nanny, not exactly, someone who helps manage school pickups, meals, and logistics when I'm on the road. She's calm, warm, never intrusive. The kids trust her. I do too. The house feels different now. Not haunted. Not broken. Just, real. I got rid of anything Lena picked. The furniture. The paintings. The monogrammed towels. Even the wine glasses she insisted on from that one boutique in Napa. Gone. Replaced with things that don't whisper when I walk past them. People keep asking if I'm dating again. I'm not. I'm not closed off either. I've had conversations, shared a few drinks, even had one almost something that fizzled out before it really began. But I'm not chasing anything. I'm building. Not just a life. A mindset. The kind of mindset that doesn't bend itself around someone else's secrecy. That doesn't ignore its own instincts in the name of keeping the peace. I know what I want now. Not just loyalty. Clarity. Presence. Someone who speaks plainly, laughs fully, and shows up even when no one's watching. I started journaling again. Something I used to do in college, before the pressure, before the lights. Every morning, 10 minutes, just to check in with myself. See where I'm at. Track where I'm going. Not as an athlete. As a man. I coach Miles' flag football team on weekends now. He wears my old number. Runs funny routes. Brags to his teammates that I used to be famous. I don't correct him. Ava plays piano. She's good. Better than we realized. She sits on the bench for hours without anyone telling her to practice. That kind of focus, that's her mom in her. The part of Lena I never have to question. I think that's what healing looks like. Not forgiveness. Not forgetting. But acceptance. Understanding what was real, what wasn't, and what still matters anyway. This life, this second act, it's quieter, simpler, but sharper too. I don't second-guess myself anymore. I don't chase apologies I'll never get. And I don't mourn the version of me that let someone else's lie define what home felt like. I'm still here. Still standing. Not perfect. But clear. And this time, I'm not letting anyone write the playbook but me.